evening to all distinguished panelists and dear participants. I once again welcome all of you to today's webinar on blockchain, a game changer technology in the pre and post-COVID world. As per schedule, we shall be starting with the webinar in a few minutes from now, sharp at 6. Meanwhile, it is time for tea and networking. So I hope all my participants are enjoying tea at their home in a safe environment. Good evening, Subrata sir. Am I audible?
You are audible, but am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible. Perfectly audible.
Okay.
Welcome to the webinar, sir.
Oh, thank you all. I could see Professor Huda is also there today.
Yes, sir. Professor Huda is there. Sir has joined us. Within a few minutes from now, all dear participants, we shall soon be starting with today's webinar.
काला में काला, लाल में लाल.
So a very warm welcome to all distinguished panelists and dear participants. I once again welcome you all to today's webinar on blockchain, a game changer technology in the pre and post-COVID world. Very soon, in a few minutes from now, we shall be starting with the webinar. Any of your friends and colleagues who are still yet to join, have not joined or plan to join from our official YouTube channel, where this event will also be live streamed, kindly inform them to join from the WebEx room. The room is still open. They can easily join. Very soon, we shall be starting with today's webinar.
Good evening, Subrata sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, my network is little poor. I was trying to unmute and then it was not getting unmuted. Last webinar, Dr. Ritika, I was hearing you, but I was trying to unmute and unmute was not possible because of the network. It was taking time because it was buffering.
Yes, sir.
Problem on the video actually. Audio
Correct.
is no problem, but video there is some problem.
Yes, sir.
A very good evening and a very warm welcome to all distinguished panelists and participants. I welcome you all today. Good evening, Ajay Goyal sir. Welcome to the webinar. I think Goyal sir is still connecting.
Hi, Dr. Ritika. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Welcome to the webinar, sir.
Yeah.
Hey, Rajesh. Hi, Dr. Ritika. How are you?
Hi, Ajay. How are you?
Yeah,
all fine. All fine. How are you, Mr. Ajay and Mr. Rajesh?
Hello.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. My video is not available again because of the network. Possibly by next week it will be ready. Network will be restored. Now the rain is less. Flood level is also going down.
Okay.
I'll just come on.
Dr. Ritika, we can start now.
Yes, sir. A very warm welcome, Rajesh, sir.
Thank you, Ritika. Please go ahead.
Sure. Uttam sir, we can share presenter rights with Rajesh sir. Meanwhile, I can start with the webinar.
Ma'am,
Rajesh?
Raj sir is presenter now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Rajesh
just
sir,
give
we
me a
have
minute.
shared the presentation rights with you. Along with the video option, there would be a share option.
Yeah, just a minute. Just a minute.
Yes, sure, sir. So with permission of all distinguished panelists, I would now be starting with the webinar because it's already 6. Can I start, Rajesh sir?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, sir. A very good evening to all distinguished panelists and participants. Bharti Vidyapeeth's Institute of Computer Applications and Management, BVI CAM, in association with Computer Society, Computer Science chapter of IEEE Delhi sections, Consultants Network Affinity CNA Group of IEEE Delhi section, Life Member Affinity LMA Group of IEEE Delhi section, IEEE Communication Society, and IEEE System, Man and Cybernetics, Inter-Society Relations IRS Standing Committee of IEEE, Delhi section, Industry Relations and Site Standing Committees of IEEE Delhi section, with the Associations of Computer Society of India, SAFA Society, ISTE Delhi section, and IETE Delhi Center, welcomes you all to this webinar on blockchain, a game changer technology in the pre and post COVID world. In the words of Vitalik Buterin, co-founder Ethereum and Bitcoin Magazine, whereas most technologies tend to automate workers on the periphery doing menial tasks, blockchain automate away the center. Instead of putting the taxi driver out of a job, blockchain puts Uber out of a job and lets the taxi driver work directly with the clients. So with this particular words, this code actually shares the hidden powers of blockchain as well as highlights its potential in the post-COVID world, where survival of many amongst the human civilization has become a challenge due to sudden disruption in the means of business. Today's webinar is aimed to highlight how initially blockchain was positioned as a cure for all problems. As years went by, blockchain became a reality in enterprise, private, permission blockchain space. It emerged as a trusted open source technology that could be used as a trusted middleware or single source of truth, which became paramount in the world where trust gap is increasing on account of fake documents, fake identities, fake products, fake news, etc. From supply chain focused industries like manufacturing, retail, and healthcare to tightly regulated ones like banking and aerospace, the adoption of blockchain is poised to accelerate in 2021 as countries and organizations attempt to operate business as usual. They will continue to use blockchain to provide new customer experience, solve tough business problems that remain unsolved through traditional technologies. The webinar today is aimed to discuss its all-round perspective and the key trends of blockchain that will drive us in the post-COVID world. I would first take this opportunity to welcome amongst us our distinguished panelists for the day. We are privileged to have amongst us a galaxy of experts. I would first welcome Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay, Chairperson, Consultants Network Affinity Group, and former Chairperson, IEEE Delhi Section. I now request Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay to commence this session with his welcome address.
Thank you, Dr. Ritika Vashan. Good evening to all panelists and the other participants. Well, today we have all assembled over the virtual platform to participate in the webinar on blockchain, a game changer technology in the pre and post COVID world by Mr. Rajesh Gundu. What is this blockchain? Little bit elaboration from my side. Simple. It is a system of recording information in a way that makes it difficult or rather impossible to change, hack, or cheat the system. That's why Ritika gave reference to the fake system. So much coming actually how to distinguish with the original one, whether it is original or fake. We'll definitely learn a lot of things from Mr. Rajesh, and particularly in the post-COVID area. So a blockchain is essentially a digital ledger of transactions, as they say, that is duplicated and distributed across the entire network of computer system on the blockchain. So it is type of database. But however, one key difference exists between a typical database and a blockchain is the way the data is structured. Blockchain collects information together in groups or blocks that hold sets of information. Blocks have certain storage capacity, so limited. So after one block, when it is filled up, definitely another block will be there, and it is chained to that one, and we'll be waiting for further data to come, which will be put in another block. So this process will go on. Thus, all blockchains are databases, but all databases are not blockchains. Each block in the chain is given in an exact timestamp when it is added to the chain. In fact, in my field, actually, power system, we have just concluded in this week, actually, from Monday to Thursday, we had the PS general meeting, of course, in a hybrid mode. Mainly, it was being broadcasted from Washington, D.C. this year. Uh, we could see a lot of application on these things, particularly cyber security, because we have got large grid operations in different countries. Ours is a national grid. It's quite a big one. Even in the other countries, China, 2, 3 such grids are operation. US also, number of them are there, and they exchange the data also because there is a power exchanges. They are using all extensively on that field, and we had almost 4 or 5 sessions on that one. And for the next one, in Denver, Colorado, from 17th of July to 21st, what they will be thinking. I could pick through that committee's discussion and understand lot of impact has made. This is one area. So definitely, I'm sure in other areas also it has come in a big way or coming in a big way. So pandemic is not a deterrent actually on this. So today we'll see how blockchain has become a game changer technology, definitely, in the pre-post COVID world from the speaker, Mr. Rajesh Duddu of the day. Hope you will enjoy these deliberations. Thank you. Let me say over to Dr. Ritika Varsha.
Thank you, sir. I would now request Professor M.N. Huda, Director, Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute of Computer Applications and Management, BVI CAM, to address the participants with his inspiring words.
Good evening to one and all. At the outset, let me welcome Mr. Rajesh Dudu, who has very kindly accepted our invitation to be a valued speaker on this innovative topic, blockchain, a game changer in pre and post-COVID arena. And the introduction of this topic has already been given by Dr. Ritika, and Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay has in a very detailed manner explained and also tried to make us to understand that how blockchain can be useful to even electrical domain, particularly the power grid. To me, as a student of computer science, blockchain is such a technology which will penetrate so deeply in coming days. That is how the topic has been kept as game changer. Wherever we feel that some authentication is required, wherever we feel that the degree of fakeness is increasing, wherever we feel that the people are trying to create fraud, blockchain can play wonders. Blockchain can put a kind of a good check on that. That's the value of the blockchain, and that is how Mr. Rajesh is with us to make us to understand how and in which way blockchain is going to change our technical life, our professional life. My dear friends, last May 2020, we started this evening weekly webinar series, and this is 45th webinar of that particular series under collaboration with IEEE Delhi section, and all prestigious and premier professional societies like IET, like IST, like Indian Institution of IT Professionals, etc., etc. And I'm thankful to all the heads of all the professional societies who kept showing their confidence and extending their collaboration for organizing this evening webinar. The purpose of this webinar was to ensure that we must continue learning despite disruptions which occurred in a big way on account of COVID-19, right from last March 2020 and is still continuing. We do not know to which extent the world will be back to a kind of physical learning environment, because so many news come from so many sections that disruptions continue happening. And under the backdrop of this disruption, the purpose of this webinar series was to ensure that learning must continue, and we must be active, we must be collaborative, we must be vibrant, and we must remain connected. And that purpose is successfully being met with the help of my all friends from professional society and Mr. Ajay, who is also the chairperson of Industry Relations Committee of IEEE Delhi section, and a good friend of mine. He has been a great source of strength in making this endeavor successful. So thank you so much. Wish you all the best. Stay safe, stay vibrant, and over to you, Dr. Ritika.
Thank you, sir. I would now welcome amongst us our expert speaker for today, Mr. Rajesh Tudu. Rajesh leads blockchain and cybersecurity practice for US $5.2 billion IT giant Tech Mahindra. He guides a team of 500 plus highly accomplished cybersecurity professionals, empowering global customers in EMEA, APJ, and India to strengthen their enterprise-wide cybersecurity posture and build a highly resilient security organization. He works closely with global CISOs, advising them to leverage best practices both in technology and operations, covering cloud security, network security, advanced threat management, zero trust, offensive security, cyber risk quantification, and SASE. He was instrumental in establishing blockchain practice at Tech Mahindra that made blockchain real and valuable for several global customers. Under his leadership, Tech Mahindra, with over 100 blockchain professionals, has been recognized as one of the global blockchain leaders by several leading analysts, industry bodies like World Economic Forum, and governments like State Government of Telangana. Rajesh is responsible for making blockchain relevant and valuable for common man in India by spearheading implementation of solutions to block spam calls and text in partnership with three leading telcos and also Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. Lattice 80 has listed Rajesh as one of the top 100 blockchain influencers in the world in recognition of his contribution over the last 5 years. Thinker 360 has recognized him in top 5 global list of blockchain influencers. He is a member of Blockchain Steering Committee at IIM Ahmedabad, part of World Economic Forum expert network comprising only select 5,000 people in the world on emerging technologies for both cybersecurity and blockchain, and is founding chairman of Blockchain Special Interest Group at NASCOM. Rajesh is an alumnus of Columbia Business School and Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning with a gold medal in MBA Finance. Driven by his life motto, help ever, hurt never, Rajesh has mentored several entrepreneurs, corporate executives, and MBA students. I welcome you to this session today, sir, and I request you to kindly enlighten the house.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ritika, and thank you all the professors who have welcomed me. And thanks for the kind welcome and thanks for the warm welcome. As Dr. Ritika had mentioned, I lead the blockchain practice for Tech Mahindra as well as the cybersecurity practice. So my intent is primarily to take you to the world of the blockchain technology and give you a perspective as to why this has become a game-changing technology and why people are saying that blockchain can solve all the problems. Blockchain will not save the world. If somebody says blockchain will save the world, it is incorrect. But it does help both in our personal lives as well as professional lives to overcome some challenges. So with this kind of a background, allow me to bring up my presentation, and then I will get into the presentation. If there are any questions, you can feel free to pick up the questions as I go along, or we can keep questions towards the end. Whichever way it works, I'm perfectly fine because
Sir,
my
we keep the
is
question towards the end.
okay. My intent is to make it as interactive as possible and also share whatever little I know. I don't know a lot about blockchain, but whatever little I know, I will certainly be happy to share. Okay. So, Dr. Ritika, are you able to see my
Yes, sir.
screen?
Your presentations are visible perfectly.
Okay. So, is the slide moved to the next one? Are you able to see the next slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. So in terms of let's start with the introduction to blockchain technology. Why blockchain has become very important? Because blockchain has helped what we call as the decentralization. Generally, when you have two unknown people who want to enter into a business relationship, there's a lack of trust. And because of that, people want an intermediary. That's why we have governments as intermediary, we have banks as intermediary, we have financial services companies as intermediary, we have various online facilitators as intermediary, for example, Airbnb for hotels, Uber for hiring cars, so on and so forth. Uh, Initially, people tried accomplishing this, but they kind of realized that you need to have an intermediary in between. If there is no intermediary, people can end up cheating each other, and then it will lead to disputes. So we always wanted somebody with whom we can place our trust, and that particular intermediary can help us to accomplish the trust factor. But blockchain has proven to the world that you don't need anybody in between to bring that trust factor. And with what they have, with what it has proven to the world, it has proven that to the world with the application of money. We all know that money plays an important role in our respective lives. And uh, by bringing in trust in that money function without the dependency on a third party in terms of whether it's a central bank or government owned bank, it was able to bring in the trust factor. That is why it has become game changing. Now let me explain how it has been able to accomplish it. So initially, when we look at people coming into a network and sharing information between them, we had I mean the world uh, started using distributed messaging networks. For people who are technically inclined, they are called as the Kafka or Rabbit message queue or active message queue. Those kind of technologies have come into place where the focus is on sending data between or sharing data between each other. Then, I mean, sending data, and then subsequently it went into the component of sharing the data, and which has been accomplished with what we call as the distributed database, and it has been facilitated by technologies like whether it is Mongo database or big chain database, and there are other databases that have come into existence. But what did blockchain do? Blockchain not only helped in terms of sending the data, not only helped in terms of sharing the data, but it also facilitated what we call as sharing the asset. In the introductory session, Dr. Ritika had mentioned that blockchain can enable people to share with each other their cars, for instance, without having an intermediary in between, which is Uber. So that is what blockchain had facilitated, and it has proved this concept with the money application, as I mentioned before, and the first commercial or the first successful commercial application of blockchain is Bitcoin. That's why a lot of people get confused between Bitcoin and blockchain. It's like, in India, you go to a neighboring shop, the guy may be running a photocopier business using a Canon machine, but he will put the shop name as Xerox. Xerox is not, Xerox is a brand name. It's one of the photocopiers that are available in the marketplace. But everybody says, nobody uses the word photocopy. Everybody says, "Bhaiya, yahan pe Xerox kidhar hai?" That is because it was an iconic invention and it became kind of an industry use, or the term has become completely industrialized to represent the photocopying industry. In a similar fashion, since Bitcoin became the first successful commercial application of blockchain, a lot of people use the word Bitcoin and blockchain interchangeably. So what we are going to focus here, not necessarily on Bitcoin, but we focus on the underlying technology, which is blockchain, which is also called as the distributed ledger technology, number one. And it is also a technology that has helped people to accomplish what we call as decentralization of trust, or digitization of trust. And in blockchain, we have multiple protocols. So you have what is called as a public blockchain, and the other one is a private blockchain. Public blockchain is something similar to a public cloud, where anybody can access public blockchain. You don't need permission to join public blockchain. Good examples are Bitcoin, Ethereum. On the other hand, enterprises would like to use what we call as the private blockchain, which is also known as permission blockchain. And permission blockchain is primarily, is a blockchain which is used uh, wherein people need prior approval or people need prior permission to get into that particular blockchain. And the various protocols that are available, like Hyperledger Foundation family of protocols, where you have Fabric, where you have Sawtooth, Besu, Iroha, Indy, and there are other applications like Corda. So the rest of my presentation is going to be focused on private blockchain, and which is also known as enterprise or permission blockchain, and how that particular blockchain will be used in the enterprise applications from a business to business perspective, and also from business to customer perspective. So what is the advantages of blockchain technology before I get into the greater details? As I told you, now two individuals who are not related to each other anywhere in the world can come together. They can enter into a business relationship without the fear of being cheated by another person. Number one. Number two, generally trust is built when you know that particular individual, but blockchain enables trust without even knowing the individual. So the trust is going to be established based on anonymity, and identity is not required. So people don't have to disclose their identity to enter into a business relationship, and the trust can be built using blockchain. So what it is going to facilitate is a decentralized applications, and we are already seeing it in the world of finance. It is called as DeFi, decentralized finance, where people no more are going to banks, or they are no more going to the centralized financial institutions. People can come together using a blockchain network, and they start exchanging money between themselves. They not only start exchanging money, but they can also enter into business relationships like issuing of loans or issuing of insurance. You would have heard the term peer-to-peer lending. The same thing is being extended further by blockchain, which is called as peer-to-peer finance, which is completely decentralized. There's nobody in between to facilitate that particular function. That's why it is going to accomplish decentralization. Then the second thing is immutability. The blockchain application is structured or architected in such a way that today, for example, all of us enter into a business transaction. And today what happens is I write a copy of that particular transaction in my books, and you keep a copy of that transaction in your books. And later, when money has to be settled and money has to be paid, you present your perspective and I present my perspective. If it tallies, the transaction goes through. But if it doesn't tally, then we enter into what is called as a dispute, and then we reconcile. Basically, I show my books and you show your books, and then we reconcile. We eliminate that particular dispute through reconciliation, and come to an agreement. But with blockchain, you're using a distributed ledger. That means I'm keeping a record of transactions on a ledger, which you are also accessing it. So if I'm making a wrong entry, you will come to know that I'm making a wrong entry. And then before that entry gets finalized in the blockchain network, you have to give your approval. So when you're saying that a wrong entry has been made by me, obviously you're not going to give your approval. Then basically I will ask you, hey, why have you not given your approval or consent? Then you explain to me these are the reasons because of which the consent has not been given. So we are settling that even before it has been finalized. It is happening even before the transaction has been completed. Whereas in the centralized technologies, you complete the transaction and then present to the third party, then we'll come to know whether it is right or wrong. So in blockchain's case, once you write a transaction in the blockchain network, the ability to change the transaction is very, very limited. That is why it is called as immutable. Once written, it can only be read. It cannot be changed at all. And because of the direct access and everybody is sharing information on the same ledger, it has a faster settlement. For example, if I give you example of a company called coins.ph, which is a money remittance company which is there in the United States. They are in the business of sending money on the blockchain network to primarily to Philippines as a country and the rest of the countries that are there in the ASEAN region. It could be Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, so on and so forth. So here, the person has an option of going to coins.ph and sending the money. When the person sends money on coins.ph, the money remittance happens in probably less than 30 minutes, and the cost of money remittance is much lesser when they, on the other hand, when they go to a bank where the money remittance is facilitated by Swift. This is because all the transactions are recorded on the same ledger. Everybody has an equal access to that particular network. Nobody has an option to manipulate it. As a result of which, uh, there is transparency that is maintained, and that's why the settlement times are also faster. And then obviously it brings in increased network capacity. It is more secure because it becomes extremely difficult to manipulate a blockchain network. A lot of people have asked me, is it technically impossible to manipulate blockchain? No, it's not technically impossible. But the cost that you have to spend to manipulate blockchain is far higher than the benefit that you will obtain. So there is no economic incentive to manipulate transactions on blockchain. That's how blockchain technology has been architected. But that is why, because the cost is very high, because the amount of the compute power that you would need to manipulate transactions on blockchain is phenomenal. Today, that compute power is not free of cost. I mean, it's not cheaper, and it doesn't come easy. Because of that, blockchain becomes more secure until and unless somebody is a maniac and they want to take control of the system, and they have unlimited access to funding, unlimited access to resources, then only they will be able to manipulate. Then obviously, as I said before, it's a shared and distributed system. So what are we seeing as key use cases in the industry? As I said before, the key use case of blockchain began in the money function, because Bitcoin was invented with an intention of taking away the function of money from the central banks. And a lot of people may tell you that blockchain journey began in the year 2008, when this mysterious character Satoshi Nakamoto came on horizon, and that particular person shared a paper called peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and then he proved to the world that Bitcoin can run the power of, can run the function of money without the dependency on central banks. But you will be surprised to know that the journey for blockchain began in the early 90s, not in 2008. It began in early 90s when computer scientists came to know that the United States government has a backdoor method of reading all the messages. it has a backdoor method of sniffing all the communication. So they wanted to basically, make these communications secret, make these communications private. And then they thought if once they accomplish that, they will be able to make government redundant. They worked on that from 1990 to 95. There are various scientists like Timothy May, David Shom, Vedai, all these scientists, computer scientists have worked on this particular initiative. And then they came to know saying that, we've been silly. If we take control of communications, government will not become redundant. We have to take control of the money function from the government. And that's when they started programming money with an intention of, promoting computer issued money where nobody controls that money institution. The computer controls the issue of money, and the money institution is controlled by the computer. They failed, they could not do it. And in 2008, it was successfully demonstrated through Bitcoin by Satoshi Nakamoto. Since it came in the finance function, since it came in the money function, initial use cases of blockchain were primarily were in either payments or in money remittances. Then subsequently, blockchain as a technology has been adopted in supply chain. Today, you can do a track and trace in supply chain. Today, you can give a lot of visibility in supply chain because supply chain industry is completely fragmented. You have multiple systems that you will use in supply chain industry, and some of the systems are legacy systems in nature. As a result of which, the exchange of information, exchange of data is not seamless, as a result of which the supply chain industry has been suffering a lot, and blockchain has been able to solve the problem. I will explain that in detail. Then in customer experience, blockchain is transferring or transforming a lot of things in the customer experience area, especially after the pandemic. The trust gap has increased quite a bit because the world has now come to know that people are not even sparing COVID medicines. You have fake medicines, fake vaccines, fake masks that are not even one ply are sold as three ply, and then you have the fake sanitizers and whatnot. So now no more people are going to buy goods just because you put a sticker saying that it is 99.9% authentic or original, or the alcohol content in a sanitizer is greater than 95 or 96%. Only when it is that high, then it becomes effective. Otherwise, the sanitizer is of no use. So people are now want to look at the information that goes into it. No more a brand logo. For example, a chips company can no more sell chips by saying that their potatoes do not have any genetically modified ingredients. So they have to give a lot of data, and that data has to be presented to the consumers where the data cannot be manipulated. And that is already being done by Walmart in United States. They have a blockchain network called Food Trust. You can go to a Walmart shop. You can pick up anything, bag of oranges or a packet of popcorn or a packet of chips. There's a QR code, and once you scan the QR code, you will know where is that every ingredient is coming from, whether the potatoes have been imported from South America, where is if they are chili flavor, where is the chili coming from, how has it been stored, and how long it is being stored. All those details are available, and people will make decisions henceforth basis that particular information. They are no more going to go by a silly sticker that is going to be on the product which is this is an 100% authentic product. So that is the customer experience that blockchain is bringing to the table. And then obviously in emerging areas today, we are seeing as kids, at least in my generation, people have collected the what do you call the miniature models of cars. So if I wanted to have a collection of 500 cars, I needed to have that kind of a space where I collected the miniature versions of those cars. Today, the kids are not interested in that. They want to collect the same 500 prototypes of cars, but those will be digital in nature. And moment when you say it is a digital asset, for example, I pay 2000 rupees to buy a digital version of a miniature car, and somebody just copies it, and then that particular person claims that they are also the rightful owners of that particular digital asset. So now how can I differentiate my ownership, which is authentic, from somebody's ownership, which is not authentic? That's where aspects like non-fungible tokens are coming into existence, where every digital good that you buy, a digital good is not buying goods on Amazon or Flipkart. It is buying a digital good that exists on the internet, where you can showcase it to everybody else without the fear of either being copied or either being destroyed. And that is what blockchain is able to do with what we call as the non-fungible tokens. And it is also bringing a lot of transparency in the internet. Today on the internet, you don't even have a right to forget. For example, you go and publish something on Facebook, and that may get copied, and it may get pasted, and it may get replicated all across the internet. You wouldn't even know where all it went. But with implementation of what we call as the self-sovereign identity, which is basically a digital identity, you will be able to track what have you published on internet. Not only track what have you published on internet, but who all are accessing that information. If somebody has copied your content and then put their name saying that they wrote that particular content, you will come to know. So these are all the emerging applications of blockchain, which is a need in today's world, right? Gone are the days when people used to publish books in a book physical book format. Now it's all about digital publishing. Moment you do digital publishing, people can copy your content. It's not that difficult to break into your digital content and copy it. So how do you secure that? And that securitization, or the security aspect of that, is being facilitated through blockchain. And then as I told you, why in the post-pandemic world, the new normal, as we call it, why blockchain is becoming important. Blockchain is becoming important because, number one, as I told you before, the trust gap. I have an interesting experience. I was in United States when the phase one of COVID broke. I was speaking at an event. I was in Phoenix, and then I was watching on the TV, the Californian governor declared an emergency. And then I said, boy, I need to get back home. I got onto the flight. And in the flight, there were people who were coming to India, and they were very afraid. They were afraid because somebody told them from the cabin crew, saying that, madam or sir, once you land, your temperature will be checked. And if your temperature is high, then you will be sent to a government hospital. You will not be allowed to go home. And I saw a lot of people taking Tylenol before the flight landed. They were taking crocin tablets before the flight landed, because crocin will bring down the temperature. And when the thermal scanners are put to the people, they can easily pass through, even though they are having infection, because temperature is the first sign of infection. So how will you prevent that? There are various methods by which people can cheat the system, and you need to have the checks and balances where the system cannot be cheated. That is the increasing trust gap I was referring to. And then obviously, because of the pandemic, everybody now realizes the importance of digital, and they want to drive digital transformation. And it's not easy to drive digital transformation with some of the existing technologies. That's where blockchain will help to go paperless. And then in spite of going paperless, it is going to bring a lot of trust and lot of belief in that particular system. So in terms of, let's see in terms of what are those things that are coming into picture. So the first one is going to be digital payments. The digital payments can be seen in three different areas using blockchain. The first one is central bank digital currency. The second one is stable coins. And the third one is cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, many of you know, because you have heard about Bitcoin, you have heard about Ether, Litecoin, and Ripple. which are the cryptocurrencies. Then comes stable coins, then comes the central bank digital coins. Now, why people are looking at stable coins? A cryptocurrency value is decided by the market. It is based on market sentiments. Sometimes it is based on fundamental factors, but more than fundamentals, it is based on sentiments. So the price is going to go up and down. And since the price fluctuation happens, not many people have adopted cryptocurrencies as a payment mechanism. So now the payment companies want to come up with what is called as a stable coin, where the coin's value is linked to a particular asset class. It could be a currency issued by the central bank, it could be gold or any other asset class. And we have seen uh, stable coins like USDT, which is linked to a $1. So no matter whether its supply goes up or supply goes down, the value of that particular stable coin, which is USDT, will always be $1. Now people are using these kind of coins in payments. In fact, the Office of the Comptroller and Currency, which runs the currency function in the United States, has allowed all the banks to use stable coins in their payment mechanism, because they realize that they're losing business to people like Square and other fintech companies. So in Indian context, banks will be losing business to PhonePe, or banks will be losing their business to Paytm. So some of the banks do not want that to happen. They also want to drive financial innovation, and they also want to be as innovative as these fintech companies are, and that's why the stable coins have come into existence. Then comes the central bank digital currency. The central bank digital currencies are the consider it as cryptocurrency, which is issued by the central bank. Unlike the cryptocurrencies which are issued, like Bitcoin is issued by bitcoin.org, Ethereum is issued by Ethereum Foundation, which does not, they are not for profit organizations, and nobody controls them. Now, central banks are realizing that over a period of time, the money function will go to these people. If you look at some countries, they have already declared Bitcoin as a legal tender. That means if you go to their country, you can either use the currency issued by the central bank, or you can pay in Bitcoins. Both are equally accepted. Nobody is going to question you, hey, why are you paying me in Bitcoin? Because they are equally accepted as legal tenders. Now, if this happens, then the central governments and the central banks have realized that their power will go down. As a result of which they said, okay, I will give you cryptocurrency function, but it will be in the form of the fiat. It'll be equal to the fiat currency. So, for example, you would have heard RBI is already considering launching the central bank digital currency, and if RBI issues that, it will be, one coin will always be equal to 1 rupee or 5 rupees or 10 rupees, depending upon how they want to structure it. Now, why do central banks want to do this? For two reasons. The reason number one, today, if you want to pump money into the economy, you still have to print paper, and that money moves from central banks to the banks, and then it gets digitized. And after it gets digitized, it gets distributed through some other banks, or it gets distributed through smaller banks to the end users. Whereas in CBDC, you don't have to use paper, you don't have to print such kind of money anymore. You can just run a computer program and create whatever, several trillions of rupees that the RBI decides to pump into the economy, number one. Number two, it gives you a lot of transparency. You can see how the money is moving in the economy. For example, today RBI issues one 2,000 rupee note. That note goes to, let's say, HDFC Bank, and from HDFC Bank somebody withdraws, and then after that, the person, if he doesn't put it back into the bank, we don't even know where that 2,000 rupee went. The person can just suck it and then put it as a black money. Whereas with CBDC, it becomes extremely difficult, because it's an electronic format. Nobody can manipulate it. and nobody can hide it. So you will be able to see how the money is moving in the economy, and it will also help banks to reduce the cost of distribution of money. And that's why we are seeing a lot of adoption of central bank digital currencies. Cambodia is the first country that has successfully completed a pilot on central bank digital currency. Tunisia as a country is adopting CBDC. Their Tunisian dinar is going to be on the blockchain network. And like that, several other countries are looking at it. Then government to citizen services. In today, in the G2C services, we don't have much of transparency, which is there, as a result of which, there's a lot of corruption, there is a lot of opaqueness which is there in government to citizen services. And now governments want to, you have heard about governments putting land titles on blockchain, then carrying benefits distribution on blockchain, so that the benefits do not go to the wrong beneficiaries, or the middlemen do not end up consuming those benefits, and the benefits actually go to the end beneficiary. And also government is now considering in terms of tracking COVID vaccines on a blockchain platform, because if the vaccines are not stored in the ambient temperature, you can still give vaccine to the citizens. The citizens will not develop immunity because the vaccine is useless, because the vaccine has not been stored in the ambient temperature. And you also today, many of you would have had the same doubt when you went for a vaccine. How do you know whether it is a original vaccine or a fake vaccine? You took it maybe in Max, so you believe that Max does not do those process, or you have taken it in Apollo, so Apollo will not use those process. So it's all based on sentiments. And how do you know that the bottle which was there has not been kept open for a long time? Because once you open the bottle, 10 shots have to be given immediately, otherwise it is of no use. So today, since everybody is anxious to take these vaccines, you are okay to take those vaccines without that information. But tomorrow, when booster shots come into place, or any other flu vaccines that you have to take, then you will ask all these questions, because it's not urgent for you to take that particular vaccine, and you will take that only when you have been 100% convinced that the vaccine has been stored in the ambient temperature. And all these are becoming a reality, and they're becoming the need of the hour, which non-blockchain technologies are not able to fulfill. And then immunity passports. Already governments are talking about this. IBM has rolled out this immunity passport. I think 150 air carriers are planning to implement this immunity passport. This is because, imagine you get vaccine shot from Lal Path Lab, and then you go to United States, and then you land. How the how the hell the immigration officer over there will know what Dr. Lal Patlab is? He may not even pronounce it properly. And then you can go to a neighboring desktop publishing company, give them 50 rupees. They will give you a certificate of Dr. Lal Patlab. And then you can show that certificate to the immigration officer. He has no option but to believe that piece of paper. But with immunity passport, that will not be a possibility. The immunity passport will ensure that fake certificates are not going to be used, and it will also have a mechanism where if you're giving a certificate which is issued by Max Hospital or Apollo Hospital, the immigration officers will be able to query the databases of Apollo or Max and come to a conclusion whether it is a original certificate or whether it is a duplicate certificate. Because if people end up traveling using duplicate certificates, we will not be able to contain this pandemic. God only knows how many more kind of Delta variants will come into existence. So we have to use a technology which does not, which is foolproof and which is fail proof. And today that particular technology is the blockchain technology. Then obviously A lot of countries are using blockchain from a supply chain management perspective. One good example is Brexit, and UK. UK, they wanted to win the European Union vote that that they have to come out of the EU region, and then they realized that they can win only if Northern Ireland votes for them. And Northern Ireland is a part of UK. It is basically Ireland, the portion of Ireland that UK had occupied. And then UK government told the Northern Ireland government saying that you vote for Brexit, then we will put border controls. That means the goods which will move from London to let's say Belfast. London is the capital of UK, and Belfast is the capital of Northern Ireland. Even though the Northern Ireland is part of United Kingdom, now after Brexit, if you have to send goods from London to Belfast, then there will be border controls. It will be as silly as putting a border control when we are sending goods from Hyderabad to Delhi. These are not state border controls. These are national border controls. That means the goods will be treated as imported goods, even though they are part of the same country. Then UK gave this promise to Northern Ireland. And after Brexit has happened, Northern Ireland completely closed their borders. And they said, any goods which are now coming from UK have to be subjected to export-import regulations. And UK was not even ready. When the UK government did an analysis, they found that traditional technologies will take them at least 15 months to put those border controls, to put export import controls. And then they leveraged blockchain, and they were able to do it in less than 2 months. And this is what we are seeing in the world today, from an ability of blockchain to change not only international finance, but also change international trade. Then we are also seeing a lot of use cases in the media and entertainment industry. Today, as you know, nobody is going to theaters to watch any of the new movies. Today, you're consuming all your new movies either on Netflix or on Amazon or Sony Live or whatever those apps that you're getting. And as a result of which, when the content gets published on these particular channels, which are called as the OTT channels, over the top channels, there are a lot of contractual obligations. Netflix recently shut down a company because that particular company gave them a drama series, and then they gave it to Netflix and they gave it to somebody else in some other country. It was a Spanish serial, so there's a lot of demand in the South American continent for that particular Spanish series. And they went and sold that content to Netflix as well as to some small country in South America. Netflix came to know about this, and then they put a $40 million fine or a lawsuit on that company, and the company decided to get shut down instead of paying $40 million. So how do you manage these contractual challenges that are there? And they are only becoming complicated because earlier you could have released it to, for example, in Indian context, you could have given it to Eros Cinema, or you would have given it to PVR cinemas. But now you can give it to AHA, you can give it to, Hotstar, you can give it to anybody else, right? And how do you know that what kind of contractual obligations are there? That's where the blockchain powered contracts rights management comes into picture, where even if people manipulate the contracts, the blockchain network will ensure that such manipulation will be identified, and before they commit any blunder, the blockchain based system is going to handle it. That is what we call as IPR conflicts from a geo blocking perspective. Digital identities, I already mentioned to you, self-sovereign identities. Apart from bringing a layer of trust on internet and also giving you control for the digital content that you publish, it is also going to bring in what we call as passwordless authentication. Today, we know that a lot of cybersecurity events are happening because people do phishing attack. And when they do a phishing attack through social engineering, they get all your user details. And once they get your user and password details, they're able to compromise your accounts, whether it is a bank account, telephone account, or any subscriptions that you may have, or it could also be your social media network accounts, whether it is Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. But with self-sovereign identity, which runs on blockchain, you can secure all of that stuff, and you can also make you can also make the services a lot more secure. Services like, for example, all of you might have used Google to log in into a third party site. All of you may have used Facebook authentication to log into a third party site. And once you have given permission to a third party site, you don't even know what other details the third party site is collecting about you, number one. Number two, once you have given that permission to Google, or once you have given that permission to Facebook, you don't even know how Facebook or Google is going to use your password details. So all of that transparency is going to come from the self-sovereign identity, and it is going to make authentication passwordless. If there are no passwords to be shared, what is there to be stolen? There is nothing to be stolen or nothing to steal, as a result of which the cybersecurity incidents are going to come down. So in terms of what are the four trends that we are seeing in blockchain in the post-COVID world, one, in terms of India will continue to push blockchain adoption. India is not very keen to do cryptocurrencies, but it is very, very keen to do blockchain from various benefits. We know today that the country, lot of financial transformation has happened because of India's stack, which is called as the Jandan Aadhaar and Mobile Trinity, and you are able to do today Aadhaar authentications. Go anywhere, you don't even have to do anything. For example, recently I changed the bank address of my, the address of my account using IndusInd Bank. In olden days, you have to go to the branch, you have to give your new address, the document proofs about the new address, or you could have mailed it to them, and then they would have taken 2 or 3 or 4 working days to do that. Today you don't have to do anything. If your address is updated in Aadhaar, all that you have to do is trigger an Aadhaar authentication, and your bank account will get updated in less than 5 minutes. Now all that stuff is fantastic. It is great transformation, great convenience. Now what happens if somebody starts misrepresenting those particular documents? If somebody presents my document on a Aadhaar network and claims to be Rajesh Dudu, how do you identify that? Today, we don't have that trust layer, and that trust layer, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology wants to build using blockchain as a presentation layer. So blockchain is going to validate not only the proof of identity, but it is also validate the proof of existence. So it is going to give those digital documents an additional layer of trust. Then CBDC, I had already mentioned to you, RBI is actively considering implementation of CBDCs, and we will see that not only from an RBI perspective, but we will see many, many countries. If I get my prediction right, about 45 countries will be implementing CBDCs in the next 12 to 18 months. Then supply chain, I had already mentioned to you. And then obviously the focus will be on interoperable and connected networks. Today, blockchain is not interoperable. The data presented on one blockchain cannot be transferred to another blockchain seamlessly. You have to do a off-chain kind of adjustments, off-chain kind of an engineering, and those will be solved very soon. Already there are people like Cosmos and Polkadot who are working on making blockchains interoperable. So these are the things that we will see in the world of blockchain. With this, I will bring my presentation to an end. My intent was to give you an idea of why blockchain is a game changer. As I said before, it's not going to save world. It's not going to cure hunger problem in the world, but it is going to tell people who are hungry, but when they want to consume a particular kind of food, it will tell people saying that food is in fact is safe. It does not have any genetically modified ingredient and they can consume it without any fear. So that amount blockchain can do, but it cannot eliminate hunger in the world. With that, I'll hand it over back to Dr. Wilson.
Thank you, Rajesh. It was a wonderful session, very informative. And I can see that participants have already enjoyed. I'm sure it has enlightened them. There are a few questions that I'd like to take up now with your permission.
Yes, Dr. Vasan.
Sure. The first question that we have, Rajesh, in the current COVID world, different type of hackers and cyber attacks have already come up each day, and Pegasus has recently garnered a lot of attention. So, how does blockchain itself secure data from such attacks and spyware?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So Pegasus has brought to the world what we call as the zero-click exploits. The zero-click exploit happens when you don't click on anything. Earlier, the cyber actors would have sent you a malicious email and then give you a link. And when you click on that link, then they would have obtained all your credentials. But today, you don't even have to click anything. You don't even have to read any message. That is what is called as a zero click exploit. So you will get exploited not because you were at fault, but the apps that you were using were at fault. So how are these attacks going to be presented? The attacks are going to be presented by exploiting vulnerabilities in WhatsApp, by exploiting vulnerabilities in Facebook, by exploiting vulnerabilities on any social media application or any application that you would have downloaded. Today, what the cyber actors are doing, they are going and they're not only identifying those vulnerabilities in those WhatsApp or Facebook kind of applications, but all those people who use those apps to develop their apps, they're going to send them false information saying that here is a version control or a version update that has come from a WhatsApp or a Facebook. Why don't you implement this version update? And these for the downstream apps which depend on those Facebook or WhatsApp kind of apps, they think that this particular update has come from Facebook and WhatsApp, and they consider it to be an original update, and they go and trigger the update. In reality, they are implementing a malware. They're not implementing a version version update. So how can blockchain help here? It's very, very simple. What we call it as code provenance. So when people like WhatsApp or Facebook, they are triggering any updates, all that they need to do is to put the code that has update on a blockchain network, and that particular code has a hash value. You can put that code into the hash algorithm, and then it will give you a value. And when you get similar update to be implemented, all that one needs to do is to rerun the hash value. Now if somebody has changed the code, the hash value will not tally with the one that has been provided either by WhatsApp or by Facebook or by Google Maps or whatever it is. By using this code provenance, which is maintained on blockchain, people will be able to at least identify the fake updates that are coming from the cyber actors. And that's how you can eliminate the Pegasus kind of attacks. The Pegasus kind of attacks cannot be eliminated by you alone. The best way to eliminate is don't use a smartphone. That's the best way to eliminate it. If you can't live without a smartphone, then you're vulnerable. On the other hand, if you don't want to use a smartphone, go back to the good old feature phones, then you will never ever be attacked, because there's no operating system on those feature phones. There is no app update, there is no app download. So by using some of these things, Pegasus kind of attacks can be prevented, but that requires everybody in the community to use that. If nobody else in the community is using it and you think that you will be insulated, it's a wrong expectation.
Thank you, Rajesh. And that was, I think, a wonderful thing, because now in the present COVID times, it's almost a necessity for all of us who want to survive to be on a smartphone. So if we are on a smartphone, we actually, I think we have to be on our own security, because we need to be prepared that such kind of attacks are going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you still want to use the smartphone, and then you are very alert about the various links that are coming, the suspicious links that come from a site which looks like an SDFC bank, but it is SDFC dot something. You can stay alert, and then you still you don't click on those links, but you still want to be insulated. The best way to insulate is to always update the operating system on your phone. Once you update to the latest operating system, some of these patches will become redundant and the cyber actors won't be able to leverage it.
Okay, we come to the next question, and this is another question even I am quite interested in. How many blockchain use cases are already deployed in India? Like,
In
is
India,
it a
many
reality in
blockchain,
India?
yeah, many blockchain use cases have been deployed in India. So we have seen, the biggest deployment of blockchain has happened in the telecom space, especially when the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India had asked the telcos like Bharti, Vi, Airtel, Vi, Reliance Jio, and the others to implement blockchain solutions to protect people from spam calls and spam text. You may wonder, but why are you still getting those spam calls and spam text? That spam call and spam text is now comes from unregistered telemarketers. Gone are the days when somebody like somebody from Bharti AXA or somebody from SDFC Insurance calling you and trying to sell those insurance plans, because now they cannot do it. If they do it, if you complain, the complaint gets registered against them on a blockchain network, and the regulator will come to know. And the regulator is not going to do anything to AXA Insurance or anything to SDFC Insurance. The regulator is going to identify the network from where the call has come, and the fine is going to the network guy rather than the AXA Insurance or the Bharti Insurance. So of late, you would have seen you won't receive those kind of calls, but you will receive calls from lesser known brands. uh, local neighborhood shop guy also today, they started calling you saying, new variety has come in the shop. Why don't you come and visit the shop, because they don't have sales. So that kind of things will continue till the complaints get aggregated against them on the blockchain network. But the spam call and spam text, after blockchain has been implemented, it has gone down almost by 25 to 30% at the national level. That's a very good implementation of blockchain. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology wants to implement blockchain on the India stack, as I mentioned to you before. The Ministry of Agriculture also wants to implement blockchain to give farmers authentic news, so that farmers won't be subjected to fake news when they go to the markets to sell their produce. So these are some of the use cases that we are seeing. The state transport authority, which is the regional transport authorities, also want to do blockchain based vehicle life management. Today in India, we have many hit and run cases on the road, and the problem with a hit and run case is the guy leaves the vehicle and runs away, and through the number plate you go to the regional transport authority, and then you go to the owner will give you form 21 or 20 or whatever it is, and then he will say that they have sold this car to Cars 24 or whoever it is 3 4 months ago. And then they say, sir, I'm not responsible for this, here is the form, and I have sold this through this particular agent. And then you go to the agent says, yes sir, this car has been purchased by me, but I don't have the documents or the valid documents of the person who has taken the car. So to prevent these kind of problems, now the vehicle life cycle management is going to come on blockchain, and they're connecting all the middlemen, the car dealers, the second-hand dealers, as well as the first-hand dealers. And then when there is a change of ownership on that particular car, whether a new car or an old car, it gets updated in the blockchain network of a regional transport authority, so that these hit and run cases will be minimized. So like this, There are many such implementations that the government of India is planning. They're against crypto chain for enterprise applications.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. Time is running out, but my queries, and I can even see participants have a lot of queries. So I'll take a one last question again. Does quantum computing actually pose a threat to blockchain technology? Like you said, the cost of breaking blockchain security is too high. But can quantum computers actually hack the Bitcoin wallets?
So in terms of, see, you don't need quantum computers to hack Bitcoin wallets today. You can hack the servers on which the Bitcoin wallets are there, or you can hack the internet connectivity through which these wallets connect to the internet, right? So wallets, when they have to do a transaction, they have to connect to the exchanges via the internet. So if those connections get compromised, you can still hack a person's Bitcoin wallet. But if a person has a cold wallet which is not connected to internet, then it becomes very difficult. That is why we keep hearing so many Bitcoins have been lost in so many blockchain cryptocurrency exchanges, right? Quantum is we don't have to wait till quantum to come. But what quantum can do is the quantum can break the algorithms that are going to be used in blockchain. If you look at the Bitcoin blockchain, it is based on double SHA-256. So they use the 256 SHA-256 algorithm, which is 2 to the power of 256 in a permutation and a combination. So if you look at all these algorithms that are used to secure the world of communications or world of blockchain, these algorithms are based on what we call as the trapdoor mathematical functions. For example, if you look at the RSA encryption in the world today, it is based on the prime numbers. So based on that encryption, there are two primes that go into that particular encryption and the value comes out of it. By using today compute power, people will be able to verify once. That means, once you two primes have been used, and today's computers can tell you whether the outcome of those two primes is correct or wrong. But to reverse calculate it, what primes went into that particular calculation, that's why it's called as a trapdoor mathematical function. It's a one-way mathematical function. So you can verify always. But if you want to reverse engineer and find the input that went into that particular output, it becomes very difficult. Today, compute powers are not capable of doing that. Quantum is going to break that particular algorithm. Once quantum computing comes into picture, using the quantum states, you will be able to identify what primes have went to calculate a particular output which has been used in a blockchain algorithm or an encryption algorithm. That is what quantum is capable of breaking. That's why people say that blockchain is not quantum safe, but there are particular algorithms. I remember writing a paper. If I find the link, I'll send it to you, where I've analyzed all the encryption techniques, which are the encryption techniques which are quantum proof, and which are the encryption techniques that are not quantum proof. But my point is like this, the analogy is like this. If you give the knife in the hand of a surgeon, he will use to save human lives. But if you give the same knife in the hand of a thief, he will take the lives of people. So the quantum computing is like that. If quantum can be used to break blockchain algorithms, the same quantum can be used to strengthen the blockchain algorithms a lot more better. I don't know which way the verdict is, but future definitely looks bright from a quantum perspective, and I don't think it will break blockchain completely.
Thank you, Rajesh. It was a wonderful session. Our participants have actually enjoyed this session and they are going to repeat it many times because it is going to be hosted live on our YouTube channel. So, thank you so much. I would now request Professor M.N. Hoda sir, Director, Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute of Computer Applications and Management, to present Mr. Rajesh Thudu with the certificate as a simple token of remembrance for this wonderful session.
Yeah, Mr. Rajesh. Am I audible to you, Dr. Ritika?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Rajesh, it was a wonderful lecture full of insights and technology related detail. And I personally agree with you that the future is going to be safe with the help of blockchain, at least for the people who will use it, for the people who understand it, and it has been so explorative that it must have been of use, must have been of benefit, must have been of significance to each and every participant who had joined here. Thank you so much for this talk, and this certificate is only for the purpose of remembrance, because we can't meet you, we can't greet you, we can't offer you flowers, we can't give you that warmth of the meeting together. So this certificate is not certificate, is a memento which will remind you always you have been part of this wonderful and lovely webinar, which was attended by participants from all across the country and abroad. So thank you so much, Mr. Rajesh.
Pleasure, Professor Hoda. I had the good fortune of working with some of the legendary bosses while I was at Tata's, and also I'm at Tech Mahindra. And one of such boss told me that knowledge, when shared, gets doubled; when retained, gets halved. So I'm doing my bit to share that particular knowledge. So this particular
Fantastic.
opportunity itself is a great opportunity to share, as I said before, whatever little I know about blockchain.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We were privileged to have you as a speaker for this webinar. Thank you so much.
My pleasure too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rajesh. So nice. Excellent session. I mean, a lot of insight and
And
knowledge.
thank you so
So
much, Mr. Ajay. Thank you
thank
so much.
you. Thank you, Professor. All right.
Yeah. Over to you,
Okay,
Doctor.
Yeah, we can
should I
drop off.
stay on or are we done?
You may log out now.